In this video, we're going to explore coterminal angles in radians. Before attempting this video, just make sure you're comfortable with what is a radian. So we've learned about coterminal angles before. There's two angles that look the same when you draw them. So for instance, 45 degrees looks like this, or I could rotate all the way around and get 405 degrees, and that looks the exact same. Basically, it's just when there's two angles that have extra revolutions around the circle. Alright, so we did this with degrees before, so technically you could try these on your own. You could pause the video and see if you can get them. But if we're trying to find coterminal angles to these things in degrees, but for this one I would just subtract 360, and I would get 50 degrees. 810, I would subtract 360, and get 450. But that number's still bigger than 360, so I would do it again. And get 90. And so 810 and 90 are coterminal. And 450, but 90 is the important one. A negative number, I just add it. So I'm going to add 360 degrees this time. Get negative 555. Still negative, so I'm going to do it again. Negative 195. Still negative, so I'll do it again. Get 165. Right, so negative 915, and all of these angles are coterminal, but mainly the last one's the most important one because that would be the one that's related to our first revolution around the circle. All right, so when we're doing this with degrees, we always use that 360, all right, because that's going all the way around the circle, and I end up back in the same place. So if I was kind of here on the circle and I do 360, I end up back in the same place, and it means the angle looks the same. All right, what are we going to do in radians? Well, we're doing 360 because it's a full revolution of the circle, which means radians, a full revolution of the circle is 2 pi. So we're going to have to use 2 pi for these coterminal angle calculations. All right, 10 pi over 3. How do I know that's not already small enough? Related to figuring out the angle, if I do 10 divided by 3, I get 3.33. So this whole fraction, 10 over 3 pi, is 3.33 pi, which is bigger than 2 pi. And we know 2 pi is that first revolution. So I already know this angle is too big, so I need to subtract 2 pi from it. And here's where it's a little bit more complicated than degrees, because most of the time we're going to be working with a fraction. So to combine fractions, we need to get a common denominator. So first thing is to remember that anything, you can just put it over 1 to make it a fraction. And then I need a 3 on the bottom, so I'm going to multiply this by 3 over 3. So now my problem is going to be 10 pi over 3 minus 2 times 3 is 6. 3 times 1 is 3. All right, so it's real important. The first thing you do is get these denominators to be the same. Then I can subtract 10 pi minus 6 pi is 4 pi. And I put it over that one common denominator. All right, so this is my final answer here, 4 pi over 3. All right, 4 pi over 3 and 10 pi over 3 are coterminal, but this one is smaller than 2 pi. Another example, 19 pi over 4. 19 divided by 4 is 4.75, so it's definitely bigger than 2 pi. So I'm going to have to subtract 2 pi. I'm going to do the same steps. All right, make it a fraction. I want a 4 on the bottom, so I'm going to multiply by 4 on the top and bottom. 19 pi over 4 minus 8 pi over 4. And that gives me 19 minus 8 is 11. All right, 11 over 4 is going to be 2.75, so still bigger than 2. So I need to do this again. All right, so I need to subtract 2 pi again, but we know 2 pi is the same as 8 pi over 4. So you don't need to write this step. You could just use 8 pi over 4 again, and that gives me 3 pi over 4. And 3 over 4 is just 0.75, so now it's smaller than 2 pi, and I know this is my final answer. All right, in this example, we're giving a negative angle, but we know for a negative angle, the only difference is now we're going to add 2 pi. But to add, I still need to get a common denominator, so I make it a fraction. I need the bottom to be 6, so I'm going to multiply by 6 over 6. Negative 13 plus 12 is negative 1. and it's still negative, so I need to do this again. And again, I would need to add 2 pi, but we know 2 pi is the same as 12 pi over 6, so I'm just going to write 12 pi over 6 again. So I can use that for any time the bottom is 6, and I get 11 pi over 6. And 11 looks like too big of a number to have in these fractions, but 11 over 6 is 1.8, and that's smaller than 2, so this actually is in my first revolution of the unit circle, and that's my final answer. Here's the one for you to try on your own. Find the smallest positive coterminal angle to 16 pi over 3. I'll show you the answer in 3, 2, 1. And you actually have to do it twice for this one. You have to subtract 2 pi, you get 10 pi over 3. Do it again, you get 4 pi over 3. So here are the important things to remember. Add or subtract 2 pi, a full revolution in radians to get your coterminal angles. Always make sure you get a common denominator. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a 2, a 3, a 4, or a 6 on the bottom, which is 4 pi, 6 pi, 8 pi, and 12 pi. All these are equal to 2 pi. All right, so you're basically just doubling the number on the top to make it 2 pi. All right, but make sure you get that common denominator before you start adding and subtracting these radian measurements.